The Clayton County Board of Commissioners work session is now called to order. The date is December 9th, 2025, and the time is 5:30 p.m. We will do roll call. District 1, District 2.
District 2 is present.
All right, and District 3 and District 4. All right, we're going to move on forward. Do any of the commissioners, or Commissioner Hambrick, do you have any items for the upcoming BOC regular business meeting that you would like to discuss in the preliminary agenda tonight?
No, have not reviewed it.
All right, well, and so we will move right along to our work session. Our first work session item for tonight is going to be, for this afternoon, is going to be the Flint River Flood Mitigation Project, and that will be from Director Vasquez. Please come forward. There you go.
Good evening, Madam Chair.
Good evening.
Commissioner Hambrick and
afternoon.
citizens in attendance. We are presenting tonight and happy to present the first public meeting for the Clayton County Upper Flint River Flood Mitigation Phase Project. So just a little bit of history. Last year we were awarded $24.4 million for fixing the Flint. As you know, historically, anytime that it rains more than just a few hours in the county, it floods Upper Riverdale Road. So we were awarded the hazard mitigation grant. We are in phase 1 right now, which Lee and his team are conducting. It is the engineering study. And part of the grant is to have a public meeting. So that is the meeting that we're having tonight, to present to you what we have been doing so far and to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you.
And at that point, I'm going to present Mr. Lee Walton with WSB.
All right. And Mr. Walton, I just want to let everyone know, the citizens know, that Commissioner Reeves is attending this meeting virtually. So Commissioner Reeves, as we go through, if you have any questions, once we get through, Mr. Walton gets through from WSP, we will answer those questions as well as the other board members. Thank you for coming out tonight, sir.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
You said WSB.
WSP.
WSP. Yes, ma'am. It can get a little confusing around here.
Pete.
They didn't think about that when they named it all. Okay, good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners, and members of the public. We're glad to be here this evening. I say we're at the start of the process. We've actually done a good bit of surveying and analysis so far, so accurate to say we're in the early stages of the process, but this is the first good opportunity for us to come brief you on what we've done so far and where we're headed. So I'm expeditiously going to go through this agenda, just an overview of what this project is all about, talking a little bit about the modeling and data analysis effort that we're currently involved in. I've got a similar project example just to cast a vision of where we might be headed, a project from another community, and then we will welcome any public comments and questions that might come up today. So as Director Vasquez indicated, Clayton was awarded hazard mitigation grant funds. That's called the HMGP program, out of which is managed by GEMA. It's FEMA funds that flow into the state, but the state controls those funds. And some time ago, they reviewed information about this need and potential project and decided it was worthy of funding, and so they've awarded the grant funds, as Director Vasquez mentioned. And the purpose is for flood mitigation, and it's tied to previous flood events that have occurred near Southern Regional Medical Center, or Upper Riverdale Road adjacent to. And there's several factors involved there. When it floods, when the road floods, then emergency vehicles can't easily, access across the Flint River County east to west and to the hospital and so forth. So it impacts lifelines in the terminology of the emergency manager. So that's one of many factors. So we were brought on board to handle the surveying, analysis, modeling, engineering design for the project, and we're working this under the Office of Resilience and Sustainability. The primary goal overall is to identify and design flood mitigation solutions for this part of the Upper Flint River that are nature-based and feasible. And I'll talk a little bit more about nature-based in the future. We're also, as per tonight, engaging in community involvement and stakeholder involvement through the process, which is running parallel to the technical process. The flow charts that show on the slide here before you are showing how that parallel community and stakeholder involvement process and technical analysis process are flowing as we go along. And then the community, we're welcoming any comments tonight, and the community will have input on the final project design before it goes into that phase 2 for implementation that Director Vasquez mentioned. Bit of brief info about the Flint River itself. Of course, everybody in this room is familiar with and has heard of the Flint River. Probably not very many of us have been down in the Flint River. I just had the opportunity for the first time recently when the airport actually sponsored a cleanup event, sort of an Earth Day type cleanup event down in the Flint River on their property. And it's pretty remarkable when you get down in some portions of the river corridor. You almost feel like you're in a North Georgia stream. Other areas, not the same. So there's a lot of variety. There's a lot of diversity within the river. It starts just above the airport. It runs underneath the airport, mostly in culverts and pipes. And then it comes under 285 and daylights, and from there it proceeds into and through Clayton County, all the way through the county, north to south. It actually goes uninterrupted for 150 miles until it gets to Lake Blackshear down in central Georgia. So it's probably the longest stretch of uninterrupted river in the state. Most of the other rivers have had dams and so forth, and then ultimately ends up in the Gulf of Mexico as the Apalachicola River after it merges with the Chattahoochee. Yes, ma'am.
I hate to interrupt.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
You said it goes down to Lake
Blackshear.
Lake
Blackshear, which is in central Georgia.
Does it have the same effect as it does on Clayton County, down in those areas?
No. What we encounter in northern Clayton County from the Flint River is flash flood or flood surge, because there is so much impervious surface at the very headwaters of the river. When we have a heavy rain event, a significant rain event, the water washes so quickly into the river through all the storm drains that we haven't personally seen it, but all the evidence indicates that you get a very quick rise in the water level. When I was down in there, I saw there's what you call a trash line with the river, with an urban stream, where when the water rises very high, debris gets caught in tree limbs alongside the river. And at some places, I observed that being 10 feet above the normal water level. So in really heavy rain events, so much water rushes down into the upper Flint River that the water level rises quickly, suddenly, maybe as much as 10 feet, floods out, flows, and it just becomes this, raging, flooded river. And then it quickly dissipates as well, because as soon as the rain stops, the water flows on through. What you experience farther downstream is a much slower flooding impact. If you remember, and I'm sure it's happened since, but if you remember back in the early 1990s, there was major flooding in Albany from major weather events north, and that was a much slower rise of flooding, but those floodwaters stayed in place much longer. And
that was a part of the Flint?
Yes, the Flint River goes right through downtown Albany, Georgia, adjacent to Albany, next to Ray Charles Park, which is a neat place there. So the impacts are very different, and they're very unique and specific realities to the upper Flint. That's what we're trying to model and understand.
So, okay, so you mentioned, what, 1990 something?
Well, the Albany, the Great Flood, they call it, in Albany was in the early 1990s, I think 1992.
Okay, so that means that, because I've heard sayings that we started getting the flooding with the fifth runway, but the fifth runway was not
correct
around in the 90s.
Completely different scenarios. Yeah. Completely different scenarios. Here, it's very much, I'll just say, impervious surface. The more the airport has built, the more that commercial development has happened in the upper Flint area. Roads, roofs, everything contributes to runoff unless the water can filter through the soil. So with all the pavement and all the roofs that have been added at the headwaters of the Flint, that's resulted in this propensity for flash flooding effectively in the upper Flint, in the area that we're dealing with.
So would you happen to know whether or not we were having flooding issues prior to the expansion of the airport?
We're looking at what data are available, or I should say we're gathering what data are available. So we don't yet have a full picture of sort of the historical timeline of different flooding events, but that's something that we'll be looking at more carefully as we go through the process.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
No, it's all good, all good. So beyond the flooding reality, the river, of course, is a natural resource. It's a water source. It supports, life, fish, aquatic. We ran into a lot of turtles as we were exploring it recently, and again, it has a very significant environmental purpose and impact. These are some pictures from the very upper Flint. Obviously, you can see airplanes in the background, and then also pictures of much farther down the Flint of some of the really beautiful natural areas of the Flint.
Where does it start?
Where does it start?
Where does the Flint start?
In East Point. So it starts, and there's an initiative called Finding the Flint
Right.
that has been, you've heard of that.
Right.
So those are folks that have, for at least a decade, asked this question that you just asked: where does it start, and how do you find it? And then and it's little ditches and culverts, and so up on the north side of the airport and leading into the airport, there have been efforts to find where it starts and improve it in daylight. Of course, as it goes under the airport in bigger stormwater drains and culverts, we're not daylighting there because that's underneath runways. So it is what it is. But once it gets beyond 285, two large culverts come out from under 285, and then it proceeds in the daylight all the way through the county. So that's the area that we're really dealing with. So I'll say, for purposes of our project, it starts at the edge of the 285 right-of-way and some culverts that feed into airport property, which is the river.
Thank you.
Yeah. Part of this Finding the Flint effort has been about natural resources, water quality, water supply. Part of it is about culture and history and the reality, and there's been some study of how the city has developed around the river, what the river used to support. There's old mills. There's a picture there of I think it was called Lee's Mill, a pre-Civil War era mill structure that's along the river. As it says in the bullet point there, several influential black churches began along Willingham Drive at the headwaters in East Point. So there's a whole study of the cultural significance of the Flint River as well. This is what some of the recent flooding looks like, and I believe the county emergency management folks have many more pictures and personal experiences dealing with flooding. But this is a view from the Upper Riverdale Road Bridge looking north. If you go out and look there today, that's not nearly what it looks like. The water's much lower, so flood stage almost there, and then flooding
It's across from Southern Region.
across there, yeah.
Oh, one other question.
Yes, ma'am.
This area that you're showing now
Yes. Should I back
backs
up?
all the way back up to the public school property.
Yes.
Where the bus barn is.
It does.
So
It does.
Is that where it reaches out to that, or does it pass that and hit 85?
That's what we're modeling right now, is exactly where the water goes when it floods, based on topography and the land cover and all these things. So we're right in the middle of developing that model, and the next time we come before you, we'll be able to show you what it looks like when it floods and at different stages. And then we're taking images like this that have shown historic floods, the actual real floods, and using those to calibrate the model that we're developing. And then the model is going to inform what types of projects can be used to solve the problem. There's a lot of other ongoing stuff. I've mentioned Finding the Flint. The airport is and has been working with American Rivers and other organizations on green infrastructure projects and trying to increasingly do things on the airport property that will help. Riverkeeper is busy. Of course, we secured the grants here in Clayton County to do this project. GDOT has an active project to widen and raise the Upper Riverdale Road Bridge, which should make a significant difference as well. So we're talking to GDOT as we go through this project and coordinating
really?
with them.
Yeah. Oh, that's surprising.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, one other thing, so the image on this slide, it's actually the screenshot of a YouTube video that was put together by the Finding the Flint folks. And it's a number of interviews. If you're interested, it's a really interesting, well put together video to watch about the Upper Flint and those folks who have been working for about a decade on the issue.
Okay, that's awesome. We'll definitely take time to look at that video.
So this is the area. This is, and there's, as I mentioned, there's a whole range of things going on in here. There's some MARTA work in the area. The county has done a lot of planning. We're looking at the planning studies and understanding how all these different things play together and how the Flint River, and very significantly, there's an interest and an initiative to develop trails along the Flint River corridor.
Yes.
That is moving ahead despite loss of funding
We
that I won't elaborate on.
Yes, we got the funding. We're gonna
But
keep
there
moving.
is, the Atlanta Regional Commission is moving ahead with
Yes, we
planning
are.
for that, and so there's still that vision there, and we're seeing this as very much dovetailed with that effort. I mentioned modeling and data analysis, so if my engineer were here with me, we could hear a lot of words and technical terms that we would have to ask for definitions for. I'll keep it simple. We're looking to understand flooding, erosion, and sedimentation, which means soils washing down the river when these flood events happen.
We learned that in science class.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what we do is called hydrologic and hydraulic modeling. And so that's what we're in the middle of, and that basically pulls into the model all the existing infrastructure plus data about flood events, water levels, rain, propensity, et cetera. And ultimately, the model is going to show us these are areas where attention needs to be paid for improvement. And that model is going to be paired with what we call a banks assessment, which is where you visually assess the river banks in detail and identify where you have conditions that are contributing to the problem. And you can go in and fix those conditions with projects. So once the model is complete and once the banks assessment's complete, we put all that together and we identify potential projects that can be constructed realistically and to the extent possible using nature-based solutions as opposed to concrete to solve the problems.
I was going to say, as we look at how, if you look at the Chattahoochee and the banks and some of the things that they've done to restore those areas and the trails and things of that nature,
Right.
That is how we envision the Flint to look and be, with those nature trails and those beautiful banks and things.
Absolutely,
of that nature.
absolutely. That's where we're looking as well. I've got a few photos coming up on that. So we have these visions. We envision exactly what you're describing, but there's a scientific and engineering reality to it as well. So we don't want to recommend something that's beautiful
Yeah,
but doesn't work and
doesn't
is
work.
not possible. So we're factoring in the feasibility, the reality, the cost realities along with the vision as we do this. So we're going to develop alternate concepts and talk those through with stakeholders and then decide which projects to implement. One thing that's coming online right now is what I'm calling Flint River View. So if you're familiar with Google Street View, if you've ever gone onto Google Earth or Google Maps and you've picked up the little man figure in the bottom corner and plunked him down on the street, and that brings up a view of what you actually see when you're on the street. We've actually gone down in the riverbed with a 360-degree camera and captured imagery of the entire river corridor, and it's getting uploaded to Google so that anybody can access that just like you can access Street View. So it's coming online, And it looks like that image there, and that's actually showing the big culverts that come out from under I-285. So that's that picture is of the very top end of the river, the area that we're studying, and then it goes on down from there. So maybe that'll be a Christmas present for everybody. We'll have by that time all the imagery uploaded and available for review. So the last thing I wanted to run through real quick for questions. Our company has been for years involved with a project called McCoy's Creek in Jacksonville. This is in downtown Jacksonville. It was an urban stream that was basically, over the years, completely concreted, for lack of a better term, but I think you know what I mean. Wedged between blocks and roads and buildings and put into concrete channels and just run straight. And similar issues, flooding, pollution, et cetera. So we've gone through a multi-year process of assessing and designing, and now it's under construction to restore it to a more natural form of stream with trails and parks and some of the things you see in the images there. And the construction, under construction, this is actually from about a year ago, but it actually looks like this. So what used to be in a straight concrete channel is now starting to have a more natural river look with sustainable riverbanks and areas for floodwaters to flow into. So we're taking best practices and lessons learned from that project and other projects around the country and weaving that in here too. And with all that said, I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have, and happy, if it's okay with you, to hear any comments from the public.
Well, this is a meeting of the board, so we're gonna let the board
Okay.
ask the question.
Perfect.
All right, thank you. Board members, are there any questions at this time?
So where do we go from
Commissioner
here?
Hambrick?
From what you all have found out, or you all still researching?
We are still researching, exactly right. So where we go from here, we are wrapping up 2025 with our surveying effort, with, as I mentioned, the imagery down within the corridor that's coming online, with the modeling effort. And in January, we're going to be able to start showing results from all of that modeling to the city staff, the water authority folks, and others, all the engineers involved. And then we'll start talking about those modeling results with stakeholders and you, and presenting what starts to look like the options in the early spring. And then we'll have some feedback, and we'll make some decisions about which projects we should do, which we should prioritize, and what fits within the budget of the grant funds, because we're not looking to take what we have and expand beyond that. We recognize that this is an effort bounded by the available grant funds. And then we'll finish what we call construction documents for that, and then we'll start moving into phase 2, as Director Vasquez mentioned, which is accessing those additional grant funds and putting construction work out to bid for contractors to come in and build different parts of it.
How many phases will there be, or are there, to this project?
So from a grant funding standpoint, this HMGP grant that has been awarded by GEMA, it's a 2-phase process. We're in phase 1, which is analysis, design. There's permitting involved as well, as you can imagine. So that's phase 1. And then phase 2 is construction of that. So that's the grant piece. My opinion from the standpoint of the bigger picture of the Upper Flint River is there will be multiple phases over multiple decades as we continue.
So what's the lifespan of the project, you think?
I can't really project yet
Okay.
what the lifespan is, but this is all work that should be completed within the next several years, I'll just say. And then beyond that, there'll be more opportunities, I'll say.
So what did you
Director
say?
Vasquez?
Yeah, so as far as phase 1's concerned, we have until May per the grant to get phase 1 completed.
Okay.
Once that's done, all the documentation goes to FEMA. Once FEMA approves it, they will then award us for phase 2. In phase 2, we'll have to go through the procurement process to get the contractor on. Once the contractor is on, we don't know what the life of that is now, but we are guessing it's probably going to be about 48 to 36 months.
So, in this project, and I'm trying to look down the road and, I'm trying to figure out, okay, how will this look? So when you say contractors, are they coming in to try to stop the water from coming
I think
down?
we're expecting that the model is going to direct us towards two types of projects. One is stream bank or riverbank restorations. So where we've got areas that the riverbanks are eroding, and are already eroded and continuing to erode, and you're seeing roots and trees falling over and all these types of things. There's ways to, and in a lot of places you've got the land and then, basically a cliff down to the river because the normal riverbank has all eroded out. So there's ways to go down in with machinery and put a proper slope to those riverbanks and plant them and put, stones and different things in place to prevent erosion. So there could be a lot of those types of projects, and we're going to be looking for the most advantageous places to do that stream bank restoration. The other kind of project is adding detention along the river. And we're all familiar with detention ponds, or retention ponds from development projects. You can do the same sort of thing here, where there can be areas that are designed to capture and hold floodwaters when the river rises, and then slowly release that so you don't have the same flooding effect downstream. And that can take place in areas that have not previously served as detention, and then there's other areas of floodplain that have served as detention, but they've gotten silted in over the years. So we, possibly some areas we can remove some silt and help those floodplain areas to be able to store more floodwaters when it happens.
So what do you see, or how do you see this as an ending project, or at the end, or closer to the end?
Closer to the end.
Right.
I think we're going to accomplish a good bit with the funding that's available here. There's going to be a lot of stream bank restoration. There's going to be a lot of detention. Some of the improvements will be visible from the street. Some of it's going to be down in the riverbed where people really don't go and see or experience it. But then with the other initiatives going on, like the trails for the Flint River Corridor, this is going to make it possible for trails to be built in some areas that currently you wouldn't build because of flooding. And then as that process proceeds, there's going to be more projects and green infrastructure and different things that'll help along as well. And I think the big picture for something like this is the way you address it is, I'll just say, 1,000 smaller projects as opposed to one big massive Hoover Dam type project that, solves the whole thing.
So how far are we going down the Flint as far as Clayton County is concerned? Are we stopping at the Upper Riverdale Road?
We're stopping at Upper Riverdale Road in this project, and that has to do with the grant funding being tied to flooding at and involving Upper Riverdale Road, which of course is a measure of what happens upstream from Upper Riverdale Road. But there's also the theory, and we'll be modeling to test this, that improvements upstream of Upper Riverdale Road will benefit that area around the hospital and also benefit downstream. Because if you're able to hold more floodwaters, detain more floodwaters upstream, and if you're able to reduce silting and sedimentation from that upstream part that gets the biggest impact from the storm surges, then you're going to benefit everybody downstream as well. But that's not to say that there won't be need for future projects downstream from Upper Riverdale Road.
Thank you.
Is there any
Commissioner Davis?
is there any plans to address the impact on the residential communities that have incurred some negative issues downstream?
To the extent that upstream improvements will help with respect to future floods, yes. But I don't believe there's any intent within this grant to acquire residential properties that repetitively flood or otherwise do work on residential properties. Am I accurate with that?
Yes, there are a few properties just south of Upper Riverdale Road that do get some flooding. However, but we believe that this work north of the bridge will reduce those impacts as well. We also do have beaver dams in the area, that we do have a beaver dam mitigator that we have on contract that we send out when we do get those complaints in. But this is just, as Lee emphasized, this is just for the Flint River area. We do have other flooding on the north end of the county, but that has to do with the Camp Creek watershed.
Yeah.
So that's a totally separate project that we're just addressing the Flint.
I have a question. Once we get through and doing all the little small projects and things of that nature, what is the plan to maintain it? And how do we maintain it from there?
That's a good question. One of the benefits of taking a nature-based approach
Yes, I was
to
wondering about
solutions
nature-based.
as opposed to concrete pipes and so forth is that the maintenance honestly is less and it's more natural when you're using trees and roots and
Gotcha.
similar to stabilize your riverbanks. Then it just gets better over time because the roots grow and everything becomes more solid. There will probably be, as I mentioned, detention facilities, stormwater ponds of some type that will require maintenance and clean out. So that's something that we'll assess and address as we're analyzing options, and that'll be a part of the decision process.
All right. Thank you. Commissioner Reeves, do you have any, can she hear us? Does she have any questions at this time?
Yes, I can hear. Thank you all for that presentation. I have been following the work of Finding the Flint and the author Hannah Palmer. So this was a great update, and I look forward to seeing the results of the study. Oh, I do have one question. If you could just repeat the opportunities that the public and the community will be able to give input. I know you had mentioned that there will be opportunities for you all to solicit input or feedback from Clayton County residents, but can you just reiterate when that will be in your process?
Absolutely. So, and there's flexibility in this. It's an ocean, but we had a stakeholder meeting back in October, late October, where we invited, of course, representatives from GEMA and a host of other agencies and technical specialists who are working with this. Hannah Palmer was mentioned. She was invited. She wasn't able to attend, but we did call her and interview her independently and make her aware. So, and then tonight is a public meeting. We're going to have a couple more stakeholder meetings and then have a public meeting where we'll really have concrete stuff to present.
Gotcha.
Not a great term, concrete, because we're not talking about concrete here as much as we are other things.
We
but
know what you mean.
we'll have
Yes.
solutions,
Yes.
alternatives
Alternative solutions.
that we'll share with the public. And we'll do that in a workshop format with a lot of displays and a lot of explanation of what we're talking about and showing the big picture. And we'll see what people have to say about that and to share with us as well. Additionally, we are in January, we're wrapping up a sort of a website. It's actually called a story map because it links together maps and text and written data. But we're going to have that online and launch it and promote it in January. And that'll be a venue tied to opportunities for public input via surveys and website and so forth. And beyond that, we're open to any other ideas that you have. If there's a constituent group that you feel would like to talk about this, I'll be happy to come to a meeting.
Okay, I know we're discussing the Flint
Yes.
tonight, but I would be remiss if I did not mention the problems that we're having with the Camp Creek water and what's coming in, like you said, from the northern part of the county. So are we doing that same type study, or will we be doing the same type study? Because we've been talking it and working for a long time, and I think the residents have really been patient.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate their patience on that. When it comes to the Judy Lane area, We actually just got done walking the area with the Army Corps since they came back after the federal shutdown. And we are finalizing that design that should be finalized by the end of this month, because the Corps will finally give an answer to whether we can utilize a nationwide permit for that design without having to do mitigation credits, and they're favoring our design right now. So once we get that cleaned up and get that design, we can move towards it's like some of this other CDS funding that we have available, and we can finally get those construction projects off the ground.
Okay, because that will expand on over to, off of Regency and
Yes,
over
ma'am.
in, can't think of the other.
It will
street.
hit the Judy Lane area, the Shangri-La,
Shangri-La.
all that area. Yes, ma'am. We'll be able to finally get moving on those. We had a little bit of a delay just with the Army Corps. However, we finally got them. They've had a lot of turnover. So a lot of the decisions that were made a couple years ago or even 6 months ago are now different. And we have Mr. Ed Johnson with the Corps, who's been very responsive out of the Savannah district. He's come up and he's handling a lot of these projects where we're finally moving forward.
Okay. And you mentioned the beavers and the beaver dam, and I'm just finding out that there are really beavers.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
In the, right. So
We have quite a
that
few.
has been interesting.
Right.
Learning that, so. How do they, what do they do? Do they send them, I mean, but what do they do? Because I know they don't kill them.
They don't kill them.
Right.
They do trap them and they send them off. There is somewhere in Henry County or another county away from us where there is a sanctuary
Oh,
for these
okay.
things,
Okay.
and they go on to beaver heaven and wherever else they go.
Okay.
So we are.
I know we've had.
They go
big
into some
trouble.
kind of paradise somewhere else away from here.
Right. Thank you all. Thank you.
I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. Thank you, Director Vasquez. This was very informative, and thank you from WSP. This P, yeah, you got it. WSP. This was very informative and good. That way, our citizens can know where we're going, where we're moving, and where that money that we're trying to get to continue to come for the Flint to Clayton County is going. So thank you for that great presentation. And again, we welcome you back so we can get some more updates as we go through this process. Thank you. All right. Next, before we go to the next item on our agenda, I want to recognize some awesome public officials. We have our tax commissioner, Ms. Danielle Smith. Would you please stand and let's give her a round of applause. Also, we have from the city of Riverdale, Councilman Frank Cobbs. Please stand again, Mr. Cobbs. Thank you for coming out. We appreciate you all for coming out. Are there any more public officials that I'm missing? I got my glasses on. I'm trying to see in the back. All right. Again, thank you for your support. We truly appreciate you all and you all coming out and visiting with us. Mr. Cobbs comes out all the time, so we definitely, and so does Ms. Smith. They come out all the time, so we definitely love them coming with us tonight. Next on our agenda is our emergency operating plan, warming/cooling centers updates. Director Vasquez, come back to the podium one
I
more
know,
time.
you get me up here every once in a while, right? Again, good evening, Madam Chair and Board. I want to provide a very brief update to our local emergency operations plan. My team has been working on this plan for about the past year. We are getting ready to get this over to y'all for review, hopefully by February. So one of the biggest things that I want to come to tonight is that we are getting into those winter months and it's starting to get cold. So I wanted to provide updates on what we're doing to Section 5, the support function of warming and cooling centers. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Just a little bit of the statutes and the processes involved. The governing body of each county of this state may establish a local organization for emergency management. So in Georgia law, there has to be an emergency management agency within the county. And if there's not one within the county, then every city within that county has to establish their own. But the way that we run is that Clayton County takes care of all the different cities within the county, with the exception of Forest Park. Forest Park has their own emergency management. It's been like that for several years, as long as I can remember. So that is just a little bit of the statutes and processes that the reason why we do what we do. Continuing on in section 38, 327, E1C, if you look at that, it says an approved emergency and disaster plan with all applicable annexes is what we need out of these 4 categories to get federal funding. If we do not have an emergency operations plan in place, we are not able to get that federal funding from FEMA. So we have an established local ordinance. It's chapter 34 of the county ordinance. We have a legally appointed local director, myself. We have our emergency operations plan with all the annexes and an approved fiscal year program paper, which is a part of finance that we utilize to get this funding. So the LEOP submission and or updates are required every 5 years in order for us to get those fundings. The last time it was updated was 2020, right before the pandemic. We did submit our EOP at the beginning of 2025, but we are also in process of updating that plan, and we will resubmit to GMA and FEMA once we're done with it at the beginning of next year. So the purpose of Appendix 5, or S5. The purpose of this appendix is to clearly define a warming and cooling center, the activation considerations to be used by the chairperson and EMA director, and to pre-identify some facilities that may be used during extreme weather events, whether extreme cold or heat, based on data-driven metrics. As you're going to see throughout the rest of these slides, everything that's in red, that's outlined in red, are updates that we're making to the EOP, especially this function. So before, we didn't have anything saying that it was data-driven. A lot of this was based on, do we feel like we need to do it? Do we feel like we don't need to do it? So now we're going to go to a data-driven metric to keep us online, that we know for a fact when we hit this temperature, we will open these cooling or warming centers and the other factors involved. So some of the definitions that are outlined currently, and they're going to stay the same, is a warming and cooling center is a term used to describe a designated facility that can provide temporary refuge from extreme cold or extreme heat. Warming cooling centers may be shopping malls, stores, indoor recreation facilities, senior centers, churches, or government facilities. And an emergency shelter is a term used and described to describe a pre-approved facility, usually a school or a church, that provides food services, overnight accommodations, and basic medical care for persons displaced due to emergency or disasters. These shelters are meant to provide temporary housing until alternate arrangements are available. And when it says a pre-approved facility, these are facilities that the American Red Cross comes in, they look at these facilities, and then based on their standards, they approve it to be an emergency shelter. Back in September, the board voted on the update to the facility use agreement that was voted on and approved. So we have those shelters in place, and those are all of our recreation centers.
So, because I want the citizens and also I want to make sure we have an understanding. So, warming or cooling centers, what times are they open? Would you have a warming or cooling center open?
Yeah, so a warming and cooling center for our county facilities would be during business hours.
Okay.
And our overnight facilities that we've been using, Clayton County PD's community room. But that is based on the availability, and we utilize a lot of our nonprofits for the overnight centers as well.
Now, the shelters would be open once we determine where our shelters are, or the churches. Well, how would they provide that on a 24 hours, 24 whatever, not 7, but a basis? Or what type of time limits, or would the shelter be open all the time? How would that work?
So the shelter will be determined by the disaster.
Okay.
So when you, Madam Chair, will declare do a declaration of emergency in the county, or if we have a state declaration or a federal declaration, and we have, let's just, God forbid, a tornado that rips through the central part of the county, and we have several people displaced, we will open up these emergency shelters. We'll provide them the food services, overnight accommodations, places to sleep, places to eat, and basic medical care until they can get on their feet and move on to another place for them to live, or we can find another accommodation for them.
Thank you for that dissemination, because I wanted everybody to know the difference. All right.
So the situations involved. A warming and cooling center may be utilized during a power outage or other situations deemed appropriate by the chairperson and EMA director. Warming and cooling centers are not emergency shelters and will not offer food, services, overnight accommodations, or medical services. Warming and cooling centers are not, will not be open when the roads are deemed unsafe. We don't want to tell somebody we have a facility open and they can't even get there, say icy conditions or so. We don't want them on the roads. Transportation to these centers is their citizens' responsibility. We do have our nonprofits that assist. We have Hearts to Nourish Hope, Ujima Way, that offer a lot of transportation to these centers for our unhoused and vulnerable populations. Occupants of the warming and cooling center may transition to an emergency shelter if the situation dictates. So if we did have a disaster and we had warming and cooling centers and then it turned and escalated, we can move them into an emergency shelter if needed. So the activation considerations. This appendix may be activated when an emergency or disaster occurs in the county or city within the jurisdiction. The Clayton County EMA ORS director, along with the chairperson of the Clayton County Board of Commissioners and or elected officials of the affected jurisdictions, i.e. one of the mayors, and partnering nonprofit organizations will review the following considerations to determine the proper course of action to ensure the safety of our citizens. The reason I highlighted our partnering nonprofit organizations, they're the ones that can tell us if a church is available, if we're able to transport, if another location is available. They have more of those contacts. So we want to bring them into the picture to make a determination how we can get those who are displaced or needing the shelter or the center, how we can get them where they need to go. So we want that data-driven result. So we first determine the need. What geographical area is affected, the approximate number of citizens impacted, how long will the utility be out, and we're adding time of day. So in the winter months, as you know, it could be 2 o'clock in the afternoon and still be 25 degrees outside. So that is a day-by-day variable that we will look into. But obviously in the summer months, anytime between noon and 6:30 p.m., that's when when it gets the hottest. So at that point is we'll make those determinations that during those times or during business hours, we will have the cooling center open so people can get out of the heat. Another consideration is the current weather conditions as determined by the National Weather Service Advisory. So as again, this is saying that I want to have data-driven metrics, and we will get those advisories from the National Weather Service telling us the wind chill or the heat index. So snow, sleet, freezing rain, icy conditions or rain, winds, humidity, and heat are all factors. And this is something that we are adding. When it gets at or 32 degrees or below 32 degrees Fahrenheit, we will make that determination to open up a warming center. And when we are at 90 degrees or above, we will open up the cooling centers. Now, obviously, wind chill factor and heat index is a factor. That's your real feel. So it may say it's only 85 degrees outside, but the real feel may be 95. So if that's the case, then we will open those warming or those cooling centers because that heat index takes us above that threshold, and vice versa when it gets cold. And then we're also looking at our long-range forecast. Just coming up, we're already looking at next week, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. It's looking that in the evening it's going to be below 32 degrees every single night. So it's going to get very cold here next week. A couple other considerations: road conditions. Is it clear? Are we deeming that you can proceed it with caution? Travel is not recommended or it's expected to improve. We're going to look at those considerations as well. And the facility. Is the availability of the facility near the affected area, which for these is going to be countywide, the capacity of the facility and the hours of operation. The facilities list. During an extreme weather event or power loss, local businesses, churches, shopping malls, or other private entities may choose to allow citizens into their facility. Those facilities shall be referred to as spontaneous warming cooling centers, which may be open or closed at the discretion of the owner. Clayton County assumes no responsibility for those centers or their occupants. We can't mandate them to open, but if they choose to, we will list them and put it out on a public notice like we usually do, and so people know where they're at. Now, we do have a process in place that when a church or a facility wants to open up as a cooling or warming center in the community, my team will go out, we'll assess it, we'll see what they can and can't do, how big is their area. We have a little checklist, and then we get names and contacts for the owner, and then we will put them on a list that we will put out on a public release if they're available at that time. I know myself and Madam Chair, we had a conversation. We got a list from the grants department on a lot of our nonprofits. Some of them do get funding specific for warming centers, and they're the ones that we usually put on our public release, on our public statement.
If you all go out and check these facilities, I guess particularly churches and other buildings and all, how much responsibility is on the county for that if something happens or whatever, because we have named them or agreed and we've gone out and checked the facility and all? Can we be held responsible?
Well, we go by a lot of FEMA documents when we're looking at these, seeing how big it is it going to be feasible? Because if, say, a church wanted to open up, but they don't have a lobby that's no bigger than this space right here, then we're going to tell them you may not be feasible for a warming center because you just don't have space to accommodate somebody. It's all on them. We just want to make sure that they're listed and that we have their names listed for us to call, but all the responsibility lies on them at the end of the day.
Do we make that clear, or
Yeah.
will we make that clear?
Yes, they get copies of all the documents,
Okay.
and they are very clear that if you decide you're opening up your doors to the public, to the unhoused, to the vulnerable population, that is on you. That is solely on you. We can't mandate anything that you do once you open your doors.
Thank you.
And that was the community list. The facilities list that are county-owned, like I said before, we have our Jim Hughes Recreation Center, Carl Rodenizer, Virginia Gray, and the South Clayton Recreation Center. We do want to add, now this is a conversation that I will have with Director Melissa Bristol, and like I said, the police chief, Chief Roberts, we advise him that if we need it, we'll call him and let him know. But specifically the fact that their community room, there's limited availability. Because like I said before, if it's 25 degrees outside and we open at warming centers and it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Chief Roberts may have meetings and things he's got going on, so they may not be available. So we want to ensure that we're also not hindering normal county operations when we do this. Our notification to the public, we do press releases. So there's some of the emails that you get out, news media, Clayton County government website, if needed, and especially for disasters, we'll utilize Clayton County Public Schools Channel 24. We've done that before. We do have a good partnership with them. GEMA helps us out with mass notification. We do have a mass notification app. Code Red, even though Code Red is offline right now, but we're looking to get that back here shortly. And then our social media accounts. We're also looking into mass notification software to disseminate information in all the various languages. Because if we just put it out in English, that's not satisfying our whole diverse population that we have in Clayton County. So we want to ensure that everybody knows and all the cultures and languages that we have here in the county, so everybody knows when there's a disaster.
So I remember years ago, and I guess this was before the rec centers were built, the schools were being used. Are they still open to that kind of relationship, or?
Yes, we do have a great relationship with the school system, and we can utilize them if an emergency shelter is needed. We did utilize one on Valley Hill Road years ago, and we opened, Sequoia, and we did. It was the fire department was in there, and we set out the cots and the blankets and pillows and everything that they needed, and that was open for quite a few days. So they are open to it if needed.
And I do want to, through our last freeze, we did speak with Dr. Smith, and he did give a school, he did name a school that he would like to speak with you all about utilizing for a shelter as well. So
Great.
if something like that comes up again, or we need the school system, they're definitely willing to step in. So I just want to commend him for that as well.
Do they want
Outstanding.
to be a shelter or just a warming or cooling center?
Were they a shelter last time?
They were a shelter.
They
We
were a
utilized
shelter.
them as an emergency shelter.
Emergency
Yes.
shelter.
We're happy to have those conversations. If anybody has any other recommendations or any other contacts that would like to be listed as a warming or cooling center, we're open to have as many as possible. It's my goal to have maybe 2 or 3, hopefully even more per district.
Yeah. And I know we had a lot of citizens that were spending their money to kind of put people up in houses or hotels and things of that nature. So the purpose of this is, we don't want our citizens coming out of their pockets or anything like that, or even riding anybody around. That's why we have Daryl from Eugene Way and people and different resources in the community. So we want to make sure that we have that out and let people know, where we're going and how we're going to get notifications out to the public, so we can tackle this issue and make sure that our unhoused have somewhere to go when it's cold outside or if it's hot outside. more or less.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
can we add Daryl, the homeless, can we add him to our list of notifications? Because it seemed to have been a mix-up about a week ago as to whether or not we had warming centers and all, and emails were flying around. But I
Right.
remember getting
Yes.
something from you when it was warm, and I'm thinking, I guess you knew what the weather was going to be that next week.
Right. So just to be transparent, before the Thanksgiving holiday,
Right.
we didn't get any advisories from the National Weather Service. And when we contacted all of our nonprofits at the time, they said, we're out on vacation. We're on Thanksgiving break. We have nothing. But then come to find out that we did have Eugene
Way.
to
Right.
come
Because
back.
he
And
does
then,
a great job.
and then we were able to get some stuff flowing at that time.
Okay.
Well, like I said before, I want to present this to y'all because we didn't really have any set metrics or rules when it came to it. So now we have some defined ways that we're going to make the determinations and ahead of time and make sure we have plenty of advance notice.
Yeah. And I also want to give kudos to Drew Andrews as well, because he helps out a lot, as well as kudos to Daryl as well. But we got things taken care of,
We did.
and we move forward from there.
Yes, ma'am. So any other questions? That's it.
Before
Any other
you
questions? Commissioner Reeves?
before you step off the stage, I did have a few questions.
Okay.
For me? So the first question was around the temperatures, and I know you had mentioned it's a real feel versus, well, let's say what the thermostat says, but can you give some comparisons about how those temperatures compare to other metropolitan areas?
Yes. So when I gathered this information, I contacted Cobb County, I contacted Gwinnett County, and they have a new director at DeKalb County, and a lot of them have a lot of these, and it's worked for them. The temperatures that they have a definitive determination on what these temperatures are, and it's worked in their favor. And Cobb County especially is we look to them a lot. We admire them. Ms. Casey up there, who's the EMA director, we work with her in EMAG. We work with her with UWASI, and we've been able to really get a lot of information with helping us get a lot of this information together.
I know you all were talking about the cold front that came about during the Thanksgiving holiday, or the week after the Thanksgiving holiday. I had received some alerts from constituents who had mentioned that some surrounding counties had sent out an earlier advisory about the warming centers that they were going to set up. So I was just curious about how our temperature gauge relates or compares to neighboring counties, because I know I wasn't the only commissioner who got a call over that Thanksgiving holiday. So I just wanted to get a better understanding of what our process is, especially in relation to neighboring counties, and the questions that I'll speak on behalf of myself, but I believe all the commissioners were contacted that weekend.
Right. So I know that there are some counties that actually have a higher threshold. Some open them at 35 degrees, regardless if there's a wind chill or not. If it's 35 degrees, they're going to open it. We chose 32 because it's worked for more. There's more data with more of our partners around the metro. However, they have their own set of rules, but we're trying to define our set at this point. And we're trying to not to use just a shot in the dark. We're trying to get these data-driven metrics to be able to update all of our policies.
Board members, any
Other question that I had, I'm not sure if it's for Director Vasquez or if it's for the board at large, because there was discussion about communications with the organizations that received grants, and I just wanted to get some clarification if those were the grants that were the commissioners' grants that we as a board decided on, or if there is separate funding for those nonprofits who assist with emergency shelter. So I just wanted to get some clarification on that. But again, I'm not sure if that's the director or if that's an Angela question, or if anyone else on the board can answer that.
No, Commissioner Reeves, I can answer that. So I did reach out to Linda Boswell over at Grants and got a list of all of the nonprofits that receive CBDG funds. As I alluded to earlier, I did identify a couple that do get funds directly for warming centers. So because we provide funding for that, we rely specifically on those nonprofits to open the warming centers when we need them to open up the warming centers. The rest of them did not receive funding for those specific purposes. However, I wanted at least an initial list that we can reach out to see if they were willing to be a warming center and add it to our list.
And Commissioner Reeves, during the the emergency on last week, that was one of the things that I asked who was getting the CDBG funding. And if they are, when we have, let's say for instance, we have something that happens and, we have a cold spell that comes in immediately like that, who do we go to if, let's say for instance, if Deborah Anglin, if they can't host our people there, who do we go to, because we need to have emergency shelters that are ready to go just in case we have another emergency like we did with the temperature dropping like that. All right, any other questions?
Yes, just one last question in regards to will there be opportunities, because I know this is something that, again, the constituents reached out to and the public wants to discuss more. Would there be any opportunities for, active volunteers or, the folks who come out to these events to sit in and help strategize with your department? Are there any opportunities for community engagement, I guess is the question I'm trying to ask?
Yes, ma'am. We'll be happy to have any community meetings you would want to host in your district, and we'd be happy to answer any questions or have a running list of community volunteers that would love to help in time of need.
Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you. Board members, any other questions at this time? Thank you, Director Vasquez. We appreciate everything that you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next will be our financial update from Interim CFO, Ms. Angela Jackson.
Okay. Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. We're going to start with our revenue, and this chart shows the percent of the budget collected for the various revenue sources. At this point, we're 41% through the year. Property taxes appear to be low, but the deadline has been extended to December 8th. So this particular chart does not include property tax collections. Licenses and permits, business licenses are due March 31st, and permits are usually done between the months of March to September. So that's why that particular bar looks a little low. Charges for services, we have some fees that are collected on the second part of the year, and we have some in which entries are made to account for write-offs and collection fees that have been done or in the process of being done, and that's why charges for services appear to be a little low. Fines are down slightly. It appears to be 37%. We're at 41% through the year, so that's also made up on the second half of the year. Other financing sources represents our appropriations from fund balance, so we want that number to be a little lower. At this point, FY26 budgeted revenue was $329 million. FY26 collected revenue as of today is $76 million. So at this point, we've collected 23% of our budgeted revenues, knowing that we're about to receive our largest dump in the months of December and January. Our expenses to date, salary and benefits spent to this point are 39%, contractual services 58%, materials and supplies 60%. Let me go back to contractual services for a minute. Legal fees, indigent defense fees, and medical service fees are the reason for that 58%. And with materials and supplies, diesel fuel supplies, food and dietary supplies at the prison and the jail, as well as gas and oil supplies are why that number looks a little higher. Public utilities at 40%, other services and charges at 52%, intergovernmental expenses at 31%. That's our local assistance grants, which are now being paid this month. Most of them are signing their MOUs now. Capital outlay at 83%, and that appears to be high, but it's due to our buildings and improvements under buildings and maintenance, as well as our the alarm at the Justice Complex made up most of that buildings and improvements amount for the capital outlay. Other financing uses is litigation claims and settlement, which is not budgeted, and so then that's why that number appears to be 134%.
What about the one below the bar?
That's expense redistribution. That's where departments, it's a negative number because that's where departments charge other funds for services that they're providing. So for example, the garage may charge the use of the landfill oil or anything that they need out there, or charge like the fire fund for gas and oil supplies. It's just where departments charge other funds. So it should be a negative number. And right now it's at negative 57, which is good for this point of the fiscal year.
Thank you.
Our FY26 budgeted expenses were $335 million. To date, we've spent $154 million, so that's 46%. We're 41% through the year. Areas that may need additional consideration, both departments are a little slightly above 60%. Buildings and maintenance, but that's due to the buildings and improvements, as well as R&M on buildings. So like the sprinkler system at the jail, or the different HVAC systems that needed to be repaired, like at Virginia Gray. Any type of building and improvement item unexpectedly that we've had would cause that number to be higher. And fleet is the gas and oil and diesel supplies, which we have that issue pretty much every year. But those will be our areas that will be brought to you later for some type of budget amendment. Our fund balance, the target as approved by the board is 4 months, which would be $104 million. As of 6/30/2025, unaudited, we're in the process of the audit now, was $90 million. As of today, it's 34.5 because we live off of that fund balance until we receive our next dump of taxes, which will be December and January. So the fund balance goes back up, and then we live off of it pretty much for the year. Along with, we of course get other revenue sources, but that is our primary revenue source. The FY26 budget amendments that we've had thus far affecting fund balance, $11,000 as a carry forward to purchase the AED machines, $212,000 for the UPL resolution that was approved, 2025-110. The emergency funding for the Alzheimer's Service Center of $60,000. The carry forward to replace the alarm panel at the Justice Center was $1.2 million, basically. The carry forward for the Richardson Parkway and guardrail was $28,000. The Justice Complex jail sprinklers building improvement repairs, $1 million. The gateway signs and HVAC at Virginia Gray, $716,000, and the zoning rewrites, $400,000, for a total list of budget amendments affecting fund balance of $3.7 million.
All right, thank you for that wonderful presentation on our financial update. Board members, are there any questions at this time?
No, but I'm just looking at these numbers. So I hope, anyway, okay.
Let me add one additional thing that I forgot to say. At this point last year, our fund balance was $29.5 million. So
Really?
it was actually lower than where we are at this point this year.
Look at God, that's,
Yeah, well, because I'm just looking at the 41%, we're not even at 50%.
Yeah.
And- Okay.
yeah. It looks a little scary around this time of the year, but again.
Right.
All right. Any other questions? All right, thank you for that financial update. Next will be our business incubator update, Director Patrick E. GK. And thereafter, Mr. GK, you have the processing for zoning and land use requests, but we'll do this one first. All right,
Madam Chair, Commissioners, good evening.
good evening.
I would like to bring our update to the incubator. As you know, it's undergoing some renovation, and we have a phase 1 and a phase 2. And I'll go through a little bit of the programming we are thinking about. Next. So this is the floor plan of the incubator building. As you can see, it's a very large area. And some of it has not been touched at all. And those areas numbered, main lobby, co-working areas, a gathering area, office space. Well, let me touch up on the areas we are concentrating on for right now to furnish. We are looking at number 2, which is the co-working areas. Those have cubicles already that we are in the process of purchasing work chairs to go in those cubicles. We are looking at the lobby. This is a general description of the furniture layout in those areas that are consistent with incubators, because we've gone to other incubators to look at how they're set up. And number 4 are the staff offices. We got 4 in the front. We got some offices in the front and some offices in the back. We are concentrating also on number 5, which is the conference room. Given the nature of this type project, we're going to be able to generate some revenue from the conference room by renting those out for use, for business use. So we are, when you see the list of things we are acquiring, the concentration right now, because we have very, very limited funds, I will take this opportunity to express gratitude and thanks to our grant administrator, Ms. Boswell. She was able to find us some money, limited amount of money, to secure some of the furnishings.
Mr. GK,
Yes, ma'am.
can you remind me where this is?
You know, I was just about to say that. Can you tell us where it is, Mr.
Okay.
GK? South
That would
Lake
help a lot.
Okay, it is the old it is the old Social Security building.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
Okay.
It is the old Social Security building.
Okay.
Yeah. So number 7 in my legend over there is labeled as kitchen build out. The plan for the kitchen is to hopefully expand the kitchen to have two things, one or the other or both, a ghost kitchen or a prep kitchen. There are not that many prep kitchens south of I-20. So we want to do that to increase our revenue, turning that into something that really will attract, there's a lot of vendors in it. Number 6, the future build out. Right now, that is the area where we plan on creating offices. There is a number of agencies who would like to be in this building.
Yeah.
Right now, we don't have any offices. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. GK, we also need a dedicated space for workforce development in the county as well. We have so many different entities saying, I do workforce development, I do workforce development. But where do we need to, and I was just gonna ask you, could number 6 be a space possibly where we could have a possibly employment center or a worksource Clayton right there where people can come apply for jobs, actually, and actually companies can come out and, try to hire there. Is there something that we could possibly get in that area?
Yes.
Okay.
All the list of things we want to be in the building
Okay.
will really guide the redesigning of those spaces.
Okay.
What can we, because the space is limited, it's big, but there's almost so much offices you can put in it.
Okay.
So once we do, if you look at number 3, that is an expansive area for just space gathering. There could be where some of it we redesign and get some offices there too.
Okay.
So there is work to do, and all the phase 2 ideas are contingent on us finding the funding.
Yes.
Yeah, or contingent on us finding the funding. But right now, like I said earlier, we are concentrating on 1, 2, and 5.
Yeah,
Because-
it seems like a large space here, so I'm thinking Social Security, okay?
Yes.
So, I'm just trying to picture,
It-
is this the building close to where Ms. Boswell is? I know 2 Social Security.
That's the one close to KNG.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the one close to KNG.
Oh, okay.
It's a
Not the
huge,
old. Oh,
yeah,
it's huge? Okay.
it's a huge space.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge space.
But you just didn't have any parking.
Yes.
Oh, anyway,
Yeah. So,
side note.
our plan is to also look at the gathering spaces and redesign them to get some more offices. So, Madam Chair, all the things we're looking for, we're going to prioritize who comes in depending on the number of offices we end up with.
Well, I just said that as a joke, but are you aware of the parking at that building? If it's the building I'm thinking,
Yeah, yes.
it's very limited.
No, this building has good parking. It has parking in the front and parking in the back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'm
this one
just
has,
familiar with the front, and if you parked at
Yeah.
K&G or whatever, they would boot you.
and I'm hoping that if your schedule permits,
Okay,
you come visit us on the
Yeah.
17th.
okay,
Yeah, I'll give you a tour.
okay.
That's the general idea of what we are working with right now. Like I said earlier, the grant funds that we received is allowing us to do some things in it, just to make sure that we move staff into the building and be able to operate. At least staff will be in there and be able to start. The usage of the building by businesses will be through a membership application. There's one of the renovations to change the front door into a card access. So if you register and you have a card to access. But we'll get into a whole detail of it when we start nailing down the programming, how it's supposed to run. Next. This is just a few pictures of the spaces in the building. 95% of the renovation is done. They only doing some touch-ups with the punch list items, and some other things they needed to do, like striping the parking lot, installing new signs. Those should be coming sometime in January. Next. So, outstanding funding items. We have a furniture budget and funding opportunity. I'm talking to COO and CFO about that. Also, going to be standing in line to apply for additional HUD funds when when it opens. So
I'll be there with y'all.
I'm begging for funds. Future expansion is the right wing of the building has not been touched. Apparently, when the building was when the renovation started, because of the limited funds that were available, a decision was made to only address the areas that were addressed at this time. Staffing, again, that will go into, we're not ready to put an incubator management type person there yet because we're not done with finishing all that we do. It's not operational yet, so that will be deferred until all that is done. And security, extended safety measures. When we go, the plan ultimately is for the incubator to be 24/7. That's the plan, but it's a gradual plan. We're not there yet. Next. So these are the renovation timeline. Fourth quarter of 26 is final build out and inspections, preparing space for launch. And that's when most of the things that are left to be done will be there. Also, first quarter of 26, all the partial furnishings for the spaces I outlined, 1, 2, and 7, I think will be there. And ribbon cutting, we're going to gauge where we are by late January to be able to start planning. That's ribbon cutting. Next. This also laying out our game plan as to way forward. Fourth quarter of 26, looking at FY27 budget process. Madam CFO, don't cringe.
I'm gonna find you somebody.
Thinking about that, build out RFE scope, because we need to have a scope, an idea for the build out. We now know the usage, a very number of uses. So the design, the scope of design is pretty much, that's laid out as to what we need those spaces to turn into. And we will have a second, our first ribbon cutting, the first quarter of next year is the soft opening. Then once we complete everything, that will be the second grand opening. Next. These are the furniture and devices we've bought. They are only for 2 areas, 1, 2, and 7. We want to make sure we have a technically sufficient conference room that when you walk in there and you plug in your laptop, you can use the display, but not get into the county network. We're trying to protect the county from people plugging in their laptops and get into our network and cause havoc. So those are the things we are putting in there. So it's going to be a conference room worth renting out to folks to use. Next. Incubator programming. This incubator, in a nutshell, is intended to promote job creation, investment, and economic development. That is really what the intent is. When the incubator idea got started some time ago, we hired a consulting firm. PIPE is their acronym, to do a survey as to the need for an incubator. And as you can see, one of the questions, these are excerpts from the study that are pertinent to this presentation. What types of business support organizations could locate in the spaces? They listed those. Another question was, what programs would we like to have in an incubator? They listed those. So they reached a gradual design as to what we are thinking that an incubator should be. Next. Some of other questions were the spaces. What do you think there are? Some of those co-working spaces already there. A computer lab will be there, conference room for sure, and podcast studio. Some of the incubators we saw offices turned into booths for recording, where folks can come do recording. So there's a lot of ideas. All that has to do with funding also. And another question was, what kind of programming would we like to see in there? As you can see, there's a lot of programming that are available. We're going to gradually phase those things in. One of the things we have to do also is we're going to have a satellite office once in a while where we're doing permitting and business license in that building, where occasionally we say maybe on Wednesdays for about 3 hours, if you have need for business license, if we are not only doing the processing of applications, we're also educating as to the process, what to go through and do there, and also how to establish a business. If you don't have one, we will solicit help from our procurement department to come talk to them how to register to do business with Clayton County. Next. And we talked, the consultant also talked about funding initiatives. Fee proposal for sure, I mentioned that already, that to use the building, someone has to register and be a member and pay a fee to do that. We have public funding, we have bond issue, we have grants, we have private investments. I would like us to do some of the things I saw at the Russell Center downtown. They have big companies as sponsors, and we put up their logo and their information in the building. And the kind of checks those folks wrote, I'm wishing we get those kind of checks too. And so,
You said check.
and and lastly, should someone ask why an incubator? This survey went to a number of places, but there is a need, an overwhelming need in the county to have a business incubator to support what we are doing about growing the county. Next. Core tracks are real simple. We're looking at those 3 bullet points, tells you the launch lab, the growth boot camp, and the legacy collective. Launch lab is when you are about to launch, you're starting out and you need that help. Growth boot, you're in there for a minute, but you want to grow. And the legacy collective are generational and community-based enterprises that need a boost to do what you're doing. But generally, the approach is hands-on workshop, mentoring, peer accountability, and direct resource access. It will be a learning center. It will be a business center. It will be just a whole lot of things we are thinking already. Next. Again, these areas where we're going into some details about what the launch lab will do, the growth boot camp will do, and the legacy collectives. This gives us, or rather gives the incubator the opportunity to address all, not just focus on one area. We got to be careful when we adopt the cohort model for business incubators that we don't isolate it where most will not benefit from it. So it's a mixture that we're going into where by using these 3 areas, we're doing a hybrid of the cohort model and what you're seeing right here. Next. And here it's just what we are listing out. It's really draft. I didn't want to put it on the slide. I decided to so that when I say we are looking for revenue stream just to show areas, my thinking is that hopefully when the incubator starts and gets on its feet, it starts at about 250,000 to 500,000. That's in revenue. It's going to be more, but we got to start somewhere. But those are just ideas of what we are thinking about doing there. Next. And that concludes the update on the incubator.
All right, board members, are there any questions at this time? All right. Well,
Thank you.
Mr. Ejike. Again, that business incubator is definitely going to be a game changer for the county, and definitely going to be a way that we can help our small businesses and continue to promote economic development throughout the county. So thank you for that presentation. Next, we will move on to processing, zoning, and land use requests.
Yes. So this is really a presentation and a request.
Okay.
We have had conversations about, or rather complaints from our customers about some delays in zoning. Everybody call it zoning. In land use and zoning. So this presentation, very brief, is to talk about and think about how we're going to change how we do business when it comes to land use and zoning, so that we're now mixing land use and zoning with land development. 2 different things. One is the social, planning and zoning type things. It doesn't involve engineering, and one requires engineering. There are problems lately where the developers come in and say the board approved this, not knowing that what the board approved was land use and zoning. Because when you get into the land development side, that's where the engineering starts. Side factors sometimes change things. So we say, no, the board approved you to do this because it's consistent with the land use and the zoning. That's what the approval you have. You don't have an approval to change the engineering requirements of that construction. So we're trying to simplify it and make sure our developers and builders understand it. And we also need to take the same message to our zoning advisory group, ZAG, so that we make sure that when we come to planning and zoning, that we are processing, not that we're going to have a blind eye to some of the land development issues, but highlight it for them to address when they get to that stage. So, next.
Is there a training that we have for our board members?
Yeah, yes, and our county attorney have done 1 or 2 of those over the years.
Okay.
But we're going to do one again. We're going to keep doing it until everyone involved gets on the same page as to what it is that we are decided on, how we're deciding on it, at the same time protect us from lawsuits. So this is a general overview. I mean, this is the 1 million feet level. When someone submits a land use or zoning application, we review it. Based on review, if they meet all requirements, we advertise. The first 2 stages, staff controls, those first two stages, application submission and application review. If the requirements are met and we advertise, the state law controls what happens, because at that point, the zoning procedure law talks about how the progression of that. It's usually, you cannot advertise less than 50 days, and it cannot be in the process more than 45. So that state law guides that part. But if you look at in the middle, the major review agencies, we have Fire Marshal's Office, we have Clayton County Water Authority, and Transportation and Development. All of these agencies deal with life safety or engineering of the site. They do not deal with use. Planning and zoning is, can this project be built here? Is it consistent with the comprehensive, the land use and the zoning? Some of the delays, sometimes it doesn't get out of southern areas. It's really engineering. So, next. If you look at the application checklist, our filing checklist matrix on the website for zoning items, the top row that is highlighted, that reads required documents, it's the list of documents that we need from the applicant. None of it have any engineering angle. And we, as you can see, our matrix lays out all applications we have. When there is the X checkbox, that means those documents are actually required. Next. So, what I'm asking this evening, presenting an action, is for the board to seriously consider to separate, so that when we bring, and we're going to work out with legal, we're going to work out some of the details that are not here with legal, to work out a way to separate the two, at the same time protect the county. There is discussions we're going to have about the structure of the TRC, which is the Technical Review Committee. We have to work all that out. But in principle, what I'm asking the board is to strongly consider moving in this direction, so that it simplifies what we do on land use and zoning side, knowing that the county will be taken care of when it comes to the land development side. It does not mean that, again, that we lend a blind eye to issues that we're seeing when the land use and zoning. But the process doesn't stop us from advertising. Because right now, if any of those three major departments object to something, we do not advertise the project for zoning change. And they will come back and go, Ejike, why are you holding up my project? Mm-hmm. And I go, hey, this is our process. And this is something they'll be saying. But we are in the season where we want to look at everything we do, change how we do business, and see, kind of monitor it, engage to see the benefits of our change. And I think there is merit in doing that. There is merit in doing that.
So what are you asking of us? This is what I'm thinking.
Yes.
It's, having TRC ahead of what we do, or at the same time.
No, what I'm saying is that to not allow the TRC process to stop advertising of zoning cases if they meet the basic tenements or requirements of land use and zoning.
Okay.
Because we're not designing the engineering side of the project at that time.
Right.
And what I'm going to be discussing with the county attorney is how we can amend the TRC process in the code to make sure that the applicants understand that when the board votes on a zoning item, they are voting strictly on zoning. Then we will also have in that recommendation what we are seeing they must address when they get to land development. But the key is that the land development side does not stop us from advertising the project, because you have your zoning and land use doesn't necessarily mean you can build what you think you can build, because the engineering might change on the site. Again, also, I'm going to be asking legal to do a refresher training for our zoning advisory group. Once we finish all that, we're going to come back to the board to show what we are doing with the TRC section of the code, to make sure it's spelled out clearly, that for the benefit of our applicants and all the reviewing agencies that go through this process, we all understand exactly what is happening.
Okay.
Next. So that is the proposal and the request.
So when is that coming before us? The next meeting, or you gotta meet with the attorney first?
Me and the attorney have been talking for a while.
So it's coming up on the next meeting?
Mr. Reed?
Yeah, we're gonna not next, because next meeting is next week.
Right.
Yeah, we're gonna come the first BOC meeting in January.
Yeah, in January, okay. All right.
If the tweaks we're gonna make, he might tell me it requires, because it's in the zoning code, it requires to be advertised. So what I'm gonna do, put a placemaker to advertise it for January meeting, so that it come in the second BOC meeting in January.
Okay, so you're talking about the one?
Yeah.
Okay. Right,
Yeah.
gotcha. Any other questions at this time, board members? All right. Well, thank you, Mr. GK. And I just want to say thank you to all our citizens and everyone who has come out. It's finally nighttime tonight for our Clayton County Board of Commissioners work session. I hope this was informative for you as it was for us. And again, we appreciate everyone, for coming out, and you all have a great rest of your evening. Thank you.